Oops. Hi, Mia.
Hey, Warren.
Well, this could be a pretty short meeting.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, who's this?
This is Nick.
Hey, Nick, how are you?
Good morning. Here we are again tonight, huh?
Yeah, a month later.
Yeah.
Time is flying.
A month later in COVID time. What's happening with that construction by your window, Nick?
They haven't been here probably since our last meeting.
Okay.
They do this. They kind of come in and work for a month and we're a little bit raise hell.
And then
We
disappear.
yeah we get out we like us in the building or in the co-op and the folks on Fenimore Street kind of get on them about what they're doing and whether it's the right way or not, and then they kind of go away. So if I had to guess, I would say come April, we'll be at it again, I'm sure.
Well, yeah,
Right.
when the weather gets
So they they try to like block our windows with like tarps and that sort of thing. So like that's not
Horrible.
really helpful. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing the right thing, you're not trying to hide it from the people you're
Right.
doing it around.
Nicholas, you were the one that mentioned Lincoln Road last meeting, right?
I did, yeah. There's a little bit of like
Yes.
a sinkhole over there. Right?
We brought it forward to the DOT at the transportation meeting last night. So our
Sure,
liaison.
I was there for it.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're there.
I'm just really quiet in that meeting just because.
Yeah, it's so funny that they admit that they answer our budget requests from like a drop-down box.
Oh my God,
Like-
it's insane. Yeah, but just pick and
like-
choose. Like,
No
what do you
matter
think-
how detailed it is, it only has X amount of, they don't have the capacity to give us detailed responses.
No, not at all. And I mean, it's probably the problem with city government, right? And that like it isn't broken up into smaller components than what it is, right?
Right.
Like, I'm sure there's like a Brooklyn DOT, right? But is that then broken up by area of the borough,
Right.
right?
Probably.
You
Right.
think so? Is like
I think from what I heard, they have project managers like in different geographic areas. So we have this one young lady who speaks to the transportation meetings, on a project by project basis,
right.
But it's good to keep it compartmentalized because then no one knows what's going on.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever read it, but like I'm reading The Power Broker right now, which is that book
No.
that proposes, right? And like,
No.
my God, like nothing has changed. It really
Yeah.
does help you kind of see through what's going on in the city for sure.
Uh-huh.
And certainly the city as well. So, yeah, it's just kind of funny. So, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it would be nice if we, as all these committees, if we get a chance when things are safer again, to kind of take a walk around the neighborhood and kind of take stock as to what's going on. Because I feel like
Yeah.
for a lot of people also that like we talk about it in these meetings, and I kind of wanted to get into it last night, but I was doing two other things like you were as well, and I think it would be helpful for all of us to have like a visual representation of what we're.
But we'll bring it up again when the weather gets warmer,
Yeah.
and you could be the tour leader.
Oh God, help us all. Nobody wants that. But I think it would be helpful for sure.
No,
Yes,
but
I'm in a
things like
meeting
that
right
are very helpful. Okay,
Yeah.
but you need someone who knows what they want to point out.
Sure.
So start looking around, Nick.
Oh, I got tons of time to do that. Don't worry.
Have you thought about joining the community board?
So the only reason I'm actually able to attend the meetings, as I have the past 6 months or so, is that I'm currently kind of unemployed.
Okay.
I work on Broadway. So I'm usually busy right when the meetings are happening.
Sure.
And so like, I keep hoping, beyond hope that we're back to it sooner than later, but I don't see it.
That makes complete sense. Have you heard anything? Because there's been in the news that there's going to be like 25% or 30% reopening.
Yeah, I mean, so
what does that mean? You can't
for
make
us,
money.
it doesn't mean anything because here's the problem with what we do, right?
Broadway
theater is commercial theater.
Right.
We're in it to make a buck.
Hold on,
right?
the job phone. Hold on.
And if we can't make, and like the expenses are very, very high. We're talking about an weekly operating cost of somewhere around the neighborhood of about $650,000 a week.
Uh-huh.
And so like, if you can't make that money and then make money on top of that for your investors, then like, what is the, why would you bother, right?
Yeah.
And so what you've seen happen is a lot of shows have closed, of course, because like, why stay open? And so the kind of guiding idea right now, what we're all kind of thinking is going to happen, is that shows that have a deep war chest, so like your Hamiltons, your Phantom of the Operas,
yeah, I agree.
your Lion Kings, like they'll come back and maybe they'll do so in a limited capacity because they can afford to do so.
Right.
I was on a show that was about to open. We were in previews, and so
Oh,
our
wow.
war chest is nil. So
Yeah.
um,
We'll
but
keep our fingers crossed.
yeah, I'm hacking it out with the film union. So
Uh-huh.
hopefully, that picks up a little bit, and I get to kind of play with those guys. I do maybe,
Good for
maybe
you.
a week, a month or so.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
There's a lot of dislocation. Okay.
Yeah,
It's that simple.
I feel bad for people who aren't from here who have to kind of like go through all of this. Like, I'm from here. Like, where am I gonna go? Right? Like, my
Yeah.
family's here, my friends are all here. But like, if you're from like, a lot of people are from like the Midwest, the West Coast, or whatever.
Mhm.
They have nothing. They have nothing to stick around for. So like, why stay?
Okay. All right. Hi, Virginia. Is Virginia there?
Hey, Virginia. She may be connecting to audio, or she may
Okay.
just be like us, doing a zillion things in the background.
Not me. I'm
God for
totally
camera off and mute
focused.
sometimes. Thank God for it.
Today I was on, I had 2 hospital meetings prior to this. And at the last one, the facilitator sort of disappeared. So we'd be asking for things and
Virtual
wasn't.
fatigue is real.
Yeah. But it seems that the whole COVID is calming down, which is cool,
Yeah, I mean, I know I got my first shot last week.
Good.
Over at the school, over at the college. So
At Medgar.
yeah, Medgar, exactly. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
great. I don't know if you guys have gone yet, but it was.
Yeah, no, I have both shots.
Oh, you have? Okay. How was that second
Yeah.
one? Was it pretty rough, or was it okay?
No, it wasn't that rough. It was a little, my arm hurt on both shots. Okay, I was just sore around the injection point. And the first shot, I really didn't have any reaction. And the second shot, I woke up the next day and I was like creaky, like my joints were like creaky. So I just took an Advil.
Right.
And then I got very tired and I slept for 10 hours and I woke up the next day feeling pretty good.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I don't, and most of the people that I know who have had the shot, let's say out of 10 people, I know 2 people who had flu-like reaction,
Right.
Mhm. So it's not that, in other words, don't prejudge.
I won't. I'm gonna take a day or 2 afterwards as like a buffer, just in case I get hit with something. But
No, I would. Exactly right. Exactly right. But and I think that, I mean, what was it? At the meeting today, I do volunteer work for Kings County Hospital for the board,
Mhm.
and they're giving 800 shots a day, 800 vaccinations a day.
That's great.
Yeah, and Medgar Evers could do a couple of thousand.
Yeah, I mean, even with this Johnson & Johnson coming into that, it should really bolster the numbers, I think.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Yeah, my girlfriend works overseas, so she's in Syria right now.
Okay.
So she comes back Friday next, so a week from Friday, and we're trying to find that shot for her, the Johnson & Johnson, because she's only home for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And so she can't really get a second shot.
I think that's going to be at the Javits Center.
It is, yeah. It sounds like on NPR they were talking about today. So
yeah. So anyway, we're just waiting a little while. We have a presentation that I wanted everyone to see for background.
Okay.
To lead up to our EPC, the ULIP contribution.
Mhm.
So this is a general background. Amy Pinkerton sent it to me. I'm not sure the source of it, but I looked through it. It looks pretty generic to me, which is good. You know,
Okay.
hi, Virginia. Virginia was at MEC getting vaccinated. How are you, Virginia?
I think she's literally doing it now.
She's probably doing it right, just by sitting, waiting to kind of.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, she's texting.
So we're missing, so we have Virginia and we have Nicholas. We'll have Amy. We're missing Shlomo, Mendy, and what happened to Melanie? This is the second meeting she missed. Have to check that out.
I've got a question while we're all sitting around.
Sure.
Do we know under whose jurisdiction the bridge over the B&Q lines at Lincoln Road, whose jurisdiction that covers? And so I'm speaking of the area opposite of where the train station is over at Prospect Park.
With the bridge itself, or the?
Just well, really the question is about the sidewalk. I don't know if you guys get over that way very often or not, but I mean, I walk to the park every day and I usually
Where
go that
Lincoln
route.
Market is?
And yeah, exactly. Opposite of Lincoln Market, in between, going over where the train tracks are. That entire area was never shoveled for the past month, basically.
Mhm.
All those storms we had. And so it was until we had this warm up this week, we had a sheet of ice.
Right.
And of course there are, mothers pushing strollers and, just a ton of people going that way. And somebody should be in charge of that. And I just
I
wanted to
agree. I agree.
who it is, and I want to get them to maybe do their part and
Okay, let's let Mia will follow up on that, right, Mia? Right, Warren. Amy, are you here? Amy Pinkerton. She's registered. She must be on. Amy? Okay, I'm going to start the meeting. And if, when it comes time, first of all, welcome everybody to the EPC committee meeting. There's a lot of things going on. At this point in time, we're not, I checked with Mir earlier today. We're not getting any complaints in the office, which is pretty weird because usually we got a lot of complaints, but it's probably COVID related. And so what we're going to focus on is our contribution to the ULIP committee and to submit to them what we feel are the important variables from the EPC responsibility. So Amy, are you here? Okay, Mia, can you throw up that report, that presentation?
Sure. Give me one moment.
Thank you. Amy is muted.
Just give me 1 minute.
Take your time.
All right. Can you now?
Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry, I'm a little late. And then I was going to connect with a video, but I couldn't get the credentials in time, and so I just did it this way.
No problem. So while we're at it, first of all, thank you for that presentation. What's the genesis of that presentation? Where is it from?
Well, I just took Alejandra's lead, just grabbed a PowerPoint template, and then I was just, I guess her
Terrific.
team all, just kind of did a collaborative thing. They all looked for points, and I was just trying to stream of consciousness, trying to think of what what would we touch upon? And I think that basically the second slide, which I know that I had kind of broached when I was running the environmental group last year, is like, I
Terrific.
think technically the environmental committee really is an umbrella type of view to all aspects of an environment.
Correct.
So
So why don't we do this? Would you mind presenting this to us, just running through it briefly? It's
I
up-
mean,
it's-
sure.
It should be up on your screen.
All right, so I just drive the slide. So this picture is just this is from the Municipal Art Society when they did their presentation of Brooklyn Botanic Gardens. So I just grabbed that. That was one thing I found. And then this is like complete draft. This was a springboard for other members. It was just literally what I was thinking this afternoon. And
Good,
included it.
that's
So
exactly what we need.
all right, next slide, yes. And again, this was what I was trying to think of, like what would happen. You can see in a later slide, I think it would be important to kind of tally up all the projects that are currently in the works and how many housing units that are currently under development but not quite online. It could be in CB9, it could be in our zip code 11225, which I kind of used as a proxy for our community. It could be in Crown Heights South or Crown Heights proper, or it could just be in this part of Brooklyn surrounding, like just central Brooklyn. I was surprised by a few of the statistics I found, including that I can send it onward afterwards, was a resource page. So I do have links for where I got this information from.
Good.
This list is not all inclusive. It's just what I was thinking. The one thing I didn't include here that I would add is deliveries, like Uber rides, Uber Eats, FedEx, UPS, More Mail. Those things, even in my 100 unit building, our street is, blocked 24 hours a day with delivery trucks and ride shares and everything like that. So if you have a large development, I think this is also, it's part of traffic, but it's a specific part of traffic that residents drive. I guess next slide. This map was also used in the housing. I know it's older and I'm not quite clear on what is the governing documents for this project. And this is the EIS report. I don't know if it was in the final application of the developer's submission to the New York Planning Council, but I included this because they used this wider radius around the development site. And I think that the eventual, if not for this application, but the eventual rezoning is for the corridor. So it's not specific. I mean, this is a specific building site, but I do believe that there's other zoning
Oh, there is.
that will be changed if this were to go into effect. Because they're not just asking for this 960, they're asking for this area to be rezoned. Next slide. This is just another map of the same thing, but it gives you a bird's eye view. You really do see the proximity to the garden, to the development site. And then even though it's bird's eye, I think it's clear that there's no skyscrapers. These are older style residential buildings. That's all. And I didn't speak to this currently. I just thought of the title, and I want to because I was trying to look at what an R9 C2-4 actually meant and what an R6 means. Like, what's the difference? But I didn't have time to find the data points for that. But that's what I wanted to show on subsequent slides after this.
Okay.
And then the next slide. This is, they said in one of YIMBY article or something like that, it was 1.4 million square feet of development space, which was the original project of the 39-story building. And my contention with the rendering of the original project. And again, I don't know if the application gave the alternatives. I don't think it did. But in the application 39-story glass twin tower building, it seems, not only is it beyond scale of our neighborhood, but it truly is a building that you would find in Manhattan. And this is a picture that I found, and actually it's a very nice looking building, but this is in Manhattan. It's right by Madison Square Park, because that's the clock tower there. But you can see that Manhattan has a different scale. I mean, all the buildings in the area are tall and glass. You can go to the next building. Next slide. I do have to get something to drink, sorry.
Yeah, take a second.
I put this slide in because there was one, a lot of the graphics that the slides are coming up, from like a zip code, US postal zip code website. It broke down a lot of data in our area specific to zip code. So that's why I use this as a proxy for our community. It's maybe a little self-contained, but it's actually very interesting what's in our confines. So I use that. And then the next slide. Now, I think this is from, this and the next slide are from, no, this slide is from New York City. And I forgot the year. Oh, I think it's 2017. I remember that Brooklyn was the most populous, but I was looking for density, stats. And this shows you density and population, which is interesting because we're the second most dense and the most populous. Of course, Manhattan is more dense because they have higher buildings. And then the next slide. These next three slides I got from that zip code website, which I can provide the link to. And I mean, I was really surprised by this. What did they say? I didn't realize that 11225 was the most dense. It was a highly concentrated neighborhood. I felt like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I perceived it to be more dense than other places in Brooklyn because I haven't lived other places in Brooklyn. But I was surprised that it was considered one of the most densely populated areas of Brooklyn. And the next slide. And these next two slides are together. This was intriguing, more so not about the work status, but about how, and then the next slide shows it as well, that we're supposedly very unusual in that our large percentage of population, and it says it was the highest in the country, rely on mass transit to go to work. And the commute times are extended, probably because trains or mass transit is more crowded. So they remarked in the previous slide that commute times in this area to, I think, Midtown are about 45 minutes, or 45 minutes to an hour, whereas most statistically average work commute time is about a half hour. We can go to the next one. And then I wanted to, I couldn't think of any buildings by name that were under development, but there's quite a few. Again, I don't know if they're in 11225. Of course, there were some north in Crown Heights North, and there were some in the south in Prospect Lefferts Gardens. But if anybody knows any that they want to add, that'd be good. And actually, let me just share, Warren, if I can share this document with the links, because there's one that's, that zip code site is really interesting because it does talk about the housing makeup. And I was surprised. They said that this section in Brooklyn has very few children. Most singles and young adults live here without children. Which I wouldn't think so on my block, but that's,
I'll make a comment about that. There's a lot of children here, as you're correct. but I think the majority of the children are in another zip code.
Yeah, again, as I was saying, the proxy was 11225, not
Yeah,
Brooklyn
exactly.
Hold, but just
Yeah, it's like, there's another zip code within our community board.
But, I mean, that's all I was thinking about when I sent this as a springboard. I just sent the document with the links for what I said, and it's that zip code one that gives a lot of stats as far as we give about 10 graphs of all different things. And they break down the housing. I think it's like 90% of people rent in 11225. You know, the housing stock, they were saying there is it's very tight. There's virtually no housing left. Everything's over $1,000 a month. And again, I couldn't find the year that this was sourced.
Yeah, I think that's a low figure now.
Oh yeah, totally low. But I don't. But it goes up so fast. So it might be from 2018, maybe, or something like that.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Mia, could you put on the first slide, please? The one with the list. You know, not the picture, the first of the presentation. Let's see. Okay, first of all, Amy, thank you very much. All right, it's a great springboard and it's much appreciated. And it's also a very good overview. To give you all insights into how the community board is organizing this, and Mia, certainly correct me if I'm off track, is that we have 5 or 6 committees who we feel will play a major role. In addition to that, every committee is being invited to submit their thoughts on this. So when I look at the list of things, okay, like let me just use the gorilla in the room. Housing is going to be handled by the housing committee. And how we should look at the housing, and the additional thing is how it's going to affect the areas that we're responsible for. And Amy, I'm all ears here, okay? So, you know, we can discuss it. But, you know, things like water usage, sewer usage, trash and sanitation services, parking, that's going to be probably transportation, school enrollment, okay? That's going to be education committee, I'm assuming. Health service hospitals, that's the health committee. Power grid usage, that's something for us. Fire department and police services is going to probably be the Public Safety Commission. And the green spaces should be the Parks Committee. And the recreation, including bike lanes and pedestrian walkways, would fall under the Transportation Committee. Now, this is not in stone, and nor do we want to discourage any thinking on this. Thank you, Mia, for that page. So what Amy has done is number one, identified a number of issues for this committee, and number two, given us a very big background, a good background on what's going on. So let me just check the participants here. Okay, so what I suggest is this, is that in terms of the EIS, Amy, you don't have a copy of that?
The links I sent you in that document is a link to the EIS that I took it from.
Okay, so let's just back up for 1 second. You know, we had the presentation, and the presentation has really caused a lot of disruption and confusion, because in order for us as a committee, as well as the board, as well as the borough president's office, as well as city planning, no one knows which alternative is going to be, you know, we should be looking at. So my understanding is that we deal with exactly what was presented in the EIS, which is the tallest building. So that's what we're going to base our things on, base our points on, until we learn something different. Right now, there is a hold on this. I believe Alicia Boyd and Michael Hollingworth has a TRO, temporary restraining order, which is going to be heard on March 17th, if I remember right. And so what this does, what that does, it extends, we're hoping it extends the EULA period for our 60 days. And I'm sure it will, because it's just logical. Though city government isn't always logical. But anyway, so what we should do is identify the main points that we want to really focus in. And what I'm looking towards is there's going to be plenty of detailed information. But I'm really focusing on what we can submit to the executive summary, because that's what people read. And, you know, so we want to hit the main points and then have, you know, the appropriate backup in the rest of the report. So let's just brainstorm for a second. Amy, what do you think of the major headlines for the EPC? Like density?
Yeah, it would be density, and but with that density is not only the current state of, you know, population statistics that I presented, but also what's coming online in the next year or two.
Correct.
Like how many housing units have we added? And not specific to what you said. I mean, I included in, you know, basically the environmental impact, but I think it's, and I don't know how to phrase this exactly now, but it's the aesthetics of the building. It's hugely out of place. It's glass. It's a skyscraper. So in that context, that falls in our, you know, our area. And I just want to mention one other thing. I only caught part of the housing meeting yesterday, and Alejandra, and I think all the committees are doing this, and you're doing it as well. And I, you know, it makes sense. She had mentioned something that, you know, being a housing committee, they're only going to focus on the housing element and the affordability of the housing that's being presented. And I, you know, in a sense, that's not really fair, because you can't go too broad, but you can't divorce yourself from everything. You know, you're putting housing in the middle of something. You have to use the something as your context, and there's always going to be a trade-off, and you have to present that, not just affordable or not affordable. That's not everything. Okay.
No, what you're saying is right, and we need and we should develop a mechanism to do that. Okay, where everyone gets together and reports what they're reporting and see where the overlapping is. I agree with that. What about the materials on the building, Amy?
I haven't read the application, so I think that they probably go into some sort of detail about that. But
why is Alicia so concerned with that?
Oh, it was a glare study, because it's a glass tower. There's no solid glass building in this area except for the greenhouse, and that has a specific use for directing sun. And the way it's designed is probably not affecting the birds or anything like that.
Okay, so so the facade, the issues would be contextual and damaging to the birds. Correct?
Yeah, but also too,
and we have time. We have time to add on. I just want to get going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's fine to start. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. What other things, headlines would you recommend?
Well,
we could wait. And, you know, you don't have to answer now, but that's where we're shooting towards. Okay?
I mean, if I can, Warren.
Yeah, Nicholas, you were next on the list.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to do my turn. I'll be fine. Yeah.
No, it's now your turn.
Oh, God help us all.
Thank you, Amy.
Sorry, Amy. I didn't mean to jump on you.
No, it's perfect.
No, I mean, you know, I took a stroll that way after we had our last meeting, just to kind of look at the area. You know, I've watched Franklin a million times, but I've never looked at it with a critical eye towards what we're talking about here. And the glaring thing that stuck out to me was that there is one taller building over there, right? I think it's on, what is that? I forget what street it's on now, but it's
Is
on
that Tivoli
it's on
Towers?
by the precinct house over there, right?
Tivoli Towers.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, right on Crown. That thing casts a shadow. Forget about the park. Forget about the forget about the botanical garden. It casts a shadow onto Franklin
Hmm.
like you wouldn't believe, right? So like, if we're looking at the building site for where this is proposed to be going, it's going to be casting a shadow on the school right there, or Ebbets Field Middle School. It's going to cast a shadow onto the playground that's adjacent to that. And then someday they're going to want to build. Am I correct in that the empty lot across Montgomery from the Spice Factory is not part of this conversation? Is that right?
Well, there's two different levels. I think it may be part of it in terms of the zoning request
Okay.
that Amy was referring to, which in other words, the request for zoning is a larger area, rezoning is a larger area than the actual building. All right.
Right. Mhm.
So that's their request, but that's what it is, a request. I don't know how much that will hold water.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it just, again, it's about context, right? And Franklin's a very narrow street. That whole area is very narrow. It's probably one of the older parts of the neighborhood too. And like, there's no there's no reason why we should be building a huge building there. That's what really struck me, is that it's just going to turn that into a very dark street.
Well,
And
that's what I thought you were getting to.
yeah,
Exactly.
and I mean, it would have the effect of like what the L's did back in the day, right? On
Yeah, or if you go downtown to Brooklyn Heights and you're on Fulton Street, it's now a dark street.
right, exactly. And it's just, I would hate for that to happen to our neighborhood, and like,
Mhm.
and the Spice Factory, I mean, especially since it's going to be replacing such a like iconic part of the neighborhood too. Like, I mean, at least to me, it's iconic, right? Like, I've always loved the Spice Factory. I loved walking by it when it was working and I could smell it. But I mean, that was the big takeaway for me, was the context and the darkening of the street, basically.
Yeah. Okay, terrific. Virginia, are you available?
Yes, yes. Hello.
All right. First of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm walking home from my vaccine appointment.
Is this your first or second shot?
It is my first shot.
All right.
Everything ran really well.
Good.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm speaking as somebody who's lived in the same apartment in Prospect Lefferts Gardens at like Bedford and Flatbush, not Bedford and Flatbush, Bedford and Parkside for the past 8 going on 9 years. And the lighting issue, like when I moved in, there was a single family house, and then like the full lot was basically used as a parking lot. And then there was like another 4-story building next door. And about 5 years ago, they knocked down the single family house and built 2 towers that we used to have light in the apartment and we don't anymore. So, we used to be able to see to Prospect Park, and now we just like see the side of a building. And so it definitely has like a mental and like psychological and emotional effect where you feel like the walls are closing in. And we talk about density, and it's just, I don't know, I haven't given the reports and like the details as much of a look over as some of the rest of us, but it strikes me as like holding hostage, like going back to like the housing conversation. It's like, oh, well, don't you want affordable housing? And it's like, okay, yeah, but to what end? Like, oh, let us build 30 stories, or else you don't get any, or else you get luxury condos. And I don't know, my thinking has evolved on this issue where let them build as of right. Let them build something contextual. I'm just like, I don't know. I just
You
going
know,
along with the Spice Factory. It's like it's a piece of the culture. It's a piece of the neighborhood, and I'm just surprised that you know they're not doing what I've seen done to other industrial buildings, whether it be in Brooklyn or in Philadelphia, where it's like they build the condos in the Spice Factory. Like they might build like an annex and have it look exactly like it. And it's just, I don't know. I'm so disgusted by the whole thing and by the presentation of the developers, like A, B, or C. And it's like, well, just C, because when we talk about affordability, those whatever percentage are not going to be affordable, like
mhm.
in the current iteration.
No, that's true.
And
Look, Virginia, the
yeah,
bottom line is nothing is affordable of the affordable houses for most of the population. So this is just,
exactly.
this is just continuing it.
And
So Virginia,
also what they're doing here, where it's like, okay, it's not just this specific like plot of land. It's like they want to rezone like the and like the surroundings is what
I
they're
agree.
trying to do on Cortelyou, where it's not just this one building, but if you look closely, it's like the whole block.
Yeah,
And yeah, so that's my 2
okay.
cents.
So to sort of sum up what you're saying, I think you're pointing towards quality of life issues. Oh, right, with the, not having sun in your apartment and this and that. And also probably density. So we got that covered. Okay, that's great. Are there any other comments about this?
Warren, this is Amy again. I think we need absolute clarity, and maybe it's not in our committee, but I think at the community board, or a message from Fred, because I do not know what is in the original application as far as alternatives. And the presentation by the
there are none.
developers, right, the presentation on February 24th by the developer didn't really talk about 39 stories. All they talked about was an alternative, 2 alternatives, which are not in the plan. And
Correct.
it's kind of like they're setting us up to vote no with conditions, saying, no, we don't really want your proposed plan. We want the alternatives. And yet they're not legally bound to do the alternative. I think that we have to be
you're 100%
absolutely
right.
clear on that.
Yeah, we're taking it from the point, the only thing that we are evaluating is within what they've submitted in their EIS. All right, so the other 2 are not coming into play.
But I
As
think that
far as, I'm
information
just
that
saying,
is
I will get you clarity, but I believe that's what it's gonna be. And
Well, my point is that I think that the board needs to present that information to the public, because it's very, very confusing and misleading.
Correct, you're
And
100%
I think
correct.
that it should be, if you have an alternative, resubmit your application, bottom line.
Correct,
Because
I agree.
it's just, okay, all right, and that was.
We all agree. And I have to tell you, the powers that be, the borough hall, everything, everyone agrees with that. So, this is sort of seen as like a manipulation of just what you're saying. So we're going to get clarity on that. I know that Fred and me are working on that, and then we'll go from there. But my feeling is, and it's not a fact, it's an opinion, that we're going to just be dealing with exactly what they submitted and nothing to do with their presentation. Okay, but let's get that officially. Okay, Amy?
Yeah, that's great. It's more that again, the public audit, because
Well, that's
that
what I'm
was a
saying.
public
Hey,
facing meeting.
look, the one
Right.
thing about our board is that we're transparent. So as soon as we get that information, it'll be out.
All right,
Okay.
cool.
Look, the more information we can give the community, the better. All right. Okay, that's great. So, Mia, if you could send this presentation out to the members that are present. And just so you have it, and if you think of anything, let us know. Actually, send it to all the members. Thank you. The other thing is, with community issues, this next point on the agenda, we have not been getting complaints to the office. So, which I find very interesting because we always got complaints. It has to be COVID related. So Amy suggested, requested some information on 311 calls. And I thought it was a good suggestion, as did the rest of us, meaning Fred and Mia. So I did some research on this today, and there is a tremendous amount of information from 311 calls. You can Google it. I have to take a deeper look, but I know citywide, I could tell you the top, 10 complaints, and the major one is noise. Second in line is like heat, water, stuff like that. And then you get down to parking, you get down to condition of roads, all that stuff. But we have to drill down on this information to get to where, I don't know if it's available on I'm sure it's available on a district basis, but you just have to be able to drill down and find it.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on it and probably have it emailed to you guys at the beginning of next week. I can
Okay.
export some data from Open Data NYC
Yeah, I saw that site,
and
exactly.
kind of drill it down a bit. But, if I had to bet, I would say that top 3 would be noise, trash, and parking, or not parking, rather, the vehicles,
Yeah.
the irregularly or
Well,
mistagged vehicles.
Will you be looking at 11225? Are you looking in,
No,
like?
I'll be breaking it down by
PD1?
community board, not zip code, since we
Okay.
encompass a few different ones.
Exactly. And Amy, if you could take a look at that also.
I
And
did get the data site, and it's overwhelming, and I wasn't able to
no, I
get.
found the same thing, but if you have a chance, take a look and see if you can dig down. Because I
Yep.
understand, I know that you're an analyst by profession, so maybe we'll get some good results. So in other words, you're used to dealing with data. Okay, but I thought that was good. I thought it was a great idea. In terms of, look, the other thing with the environment, the biggest local thing that happened was that explosion at the Strauss store on Empire and around Bedford. That was a major fire, a car, quote unquote. We don't know the true story, or we don't know the whole story. It exploded, and I'm sure the reason it was so intense, there are a lot of toxic stuff in there. So we got to see what happens from that. In terms of from our last meeting, other things, about abandoned vehicles, ponding, catch basins, clearing walks, and the Department of Sanitation. We're going to start taking a look at this in depth. All right. First, let's get this 960 thing done while monitoring all the complaints. And the other part we have to think about, once we drill down to the 311 information, what we're going to use it for. Okay, so that's just something to ponder till the next meeting. All right.
Warren, you had suggested, I think, last meeting that to invite one of the officials from the sanitation department. I was thinking in this area, sanitation as opposed to noise would be a higher complaint than the noise.
No, I think that's fine.
People...
What we're going to do is, where our district manager is in the process of being onboarded, and Amy, 100% correct. So one of the things we'll be doing is the community council. Is that what a district council? That's what it's called, Mia?
District Service Cabinet meeting.
See, I was close.
Maybe.
But once we have our first one, Amy, we're going to be bringing people in for in for, information. The most important part, I have a lot of experience hearing sanitation over the years. So we have to develop exactly what we're going to be questioning. All right, else you just get these stock answers. All right.
Yeah, I mean, my bête noire is Dearborn Court. I looked at it again today. It's just a landfill with a footpath through the middle of it, so you can either walk or take your car. It is it's just horrible, and there's no accountability, no
Okay.
follow-up,
And
nothing.
this is the exact thing that Dante will be able to pursue on the district council.
Cool.
That's the purpose of it. And that's been a component we've been missing because of no district manager. But we're going to be able to act on it, and we'll keep you fully informed what's going on. All right. So, because I don't know what's going to be going on, but this is going to be on his list. All right. Any other new business? Wait, I wish I could. Yeah, exactly. I know. Virginia's just saying about the trash on her way home. That's correct. That's correct. But that's something we got to take a look at and start working on. Just so the short circuit something, this whole thing with trash cans, all right, unless it's funded by an elected official, they're going to say if you want more trash cans and the business has to maintain it or people have to maintain it, you got to empty it and everything else. So, to me, that's not a solution.
Right.
So
The extra ones that they did install, they took some back out.
did they?
Just they were complaining about illegal dumping, that they're becoming
Yeah.
hotspots for illegal dumping. So it's like they give them to us, and then they're just like, but they're picking up TVs and mattresses every other day when they're not supposed to.
Mhm.
I know that that's happened on Flatbush, like below Empire. I think we had a couple that were, branded with Matthew Eugene's name, and all of a sudden, like those ended up on Nostrand. Like, so I'm not exactly sure the musical trash can situation, but yeah, I mean, I've been on a bunch of like candidate calls for city council, and that's like every conversation ends up with the trash. It's like we're talking about childcare, and it somehow evolves into a conversation about the trash. And I think it would be great if the community board could engage some of the community members. There's now I think it's called Renegades of Trash, or Clean Up Crown Heights. And they've been going out, I want to say every week, and, people nominate routes, and, a bunch of people meet up and they basically clean up. And so it would be great to engage
That'd be great.
them. Yeah. And kind of like,
Virginia,
bring more people in.
If you could get the information on that and send it to the office or to
Yeah,
me,
definitely.
and
Yeah,
then
I follow
we'll
them on
invite them to the
Instagram.
next meeting.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, that's terrific. Okay, is there any new business? Any other discussions we'd like to have? Okay, based on that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Wait, before you go, so what are the action items? What are we meeting next? Like what should we, what are our takeaways and to-dos?
In other words, we identified the different, density, contextual, facade, those different things. Think about flushing them out. Okay, but briefly, not pages, because this is going to be part of an executive summary, and then we're going to have the pages later. But just start thinking of the environmental part, and certainly everything affects everything. I agree with you, Amy. But let's just initially focus on the environment, water usage, sewer usage, utility usage,
Trash
even
pickup, right?
the construction, okay, that whole period. So if you have any thoughts, let's jot them down. We certainly don't have to wait to the next meeting. The first thing we want to do is define what's going on with number one, what you brought up, Amy, in terms of, is it one building, three buildings? And the other is the timeline now that there's a TRO. But we should use this time wisely and take advantage of the extra time. So any thoughts you have, any phone calls, I'm available. You will have my number, but I'll send out my contact information to everybody, as well as you can always reach us through us, meaning me, through the community board office.
Or just responding to your own listserv, guys, if you have questions amongst yourselves.
That's a good point. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll present it, yeah. Motion to adjourn?
Okay, a second.
Second, Amy.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you all. And Amy, thank you for two good ideas tonight.
All right, thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Okay, take care. Thank you, Mia.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Thank
Bye,
you, Mia.
Virginia.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
All right, good night, everyone.